Ellie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
First of all, congratulations on becoming vice president of your synagogue. I'm the president of my synagogue. So, like I said before, congratulations, and I'm sorry. It's a lot of work to have to deal with so many Jewish people and all their opinions. So, congrats
Well,
to you.
thank goodness I'm in a small community and they don't really know yet. So it's exciting that they don't know who to bother just yet.
There you go. And you can always be like, "Hey, yeah, I'm the vice president. Go talk to the president."
Yeah, just talk to someone else. I'm just
Yeah, just
I'm just here for looks. That's what I'm the eye candy.
awesome. Where are you out of?
I live in Las Vegas in a place called Summerlin.
Okay.
It's like a nice small up and coming Jewish community, and
Yes.
we moved from the East Coast.
Beautiful.
So
So, first of all, it's got to be like 110 degrees there today or something insane.
today it's like 80 something right now,
Oh, nice.
which is
We've
really
actually had,
not, which is not normal for
yeah,
summer.
we've actually had a lot of people from San Diego move to Summerlin because of the cost and just to get out of California.
Yeah.
What made you move from the East Coast to Vegas?
Um, During COVID kind of shifted our perspective on what lifestyle truly needs to be for us and like a comfort and happiness of life and an ease of life. My wife was commuting into the city hour and a half each way, 3 hours of her life just taken every day. She couldn't spend time with the kids as much, and it was just a stressor. So my wife is from LA.
Hmm.
So we had the idea to move to Vegas and visit LA, and then my in-laws decided to sell their house in LA and move to Vegas. So
Wow.
we kind of all had the same idea at like the same time, and now we all live near each other, which is really nice. But it was more to kind of to tap into a better way of living for our mental health and our minds and our bodies and our souls, and just breathe a little bit easier. So we're really happy about it.
Let's jump into that real quick because there's a lot of men here in San Diego and different places who are like, I need to get out, I need to move. What does that mean? I wanted to move for better mental health.
It was this idea of the daily grind for us, and especially for me, of like this. I felt this pressure that I had to push myself to make an extreme amount of money
Mm.
just to be able to fulfill the basic needs of life. And whether that meant taxes, whether that meant my kids' tuition, whether it meant all those different things, it was this extreme amount of inability to breathe easy about life. And I'm not saying that it's easy here, because it's still, you still got to work. It's not like it's, houses still cost money and things still cost, but there is a beauty to the less traffic, to the nature around the corner. My backyard is the Red Rocks. Like there's just this sense of when you come out of the airport, even, or just drive around and do errands. I can do 5 errands in 30 minutes or an hour compared to one errand an hour in New York because of just intensity, traffic, and life. So to
Love it.
me as well, family is super important. And so to have a lifestyle where my wife can be involved, I can be involved, we can have a better balance of each other's jobs and responsibilities versus the hustle bustle of being in a big city like New York, where my wife was not home for 3 hours. Put a lot more pressure on me to take care of other things versus the balance where everyone is just cooler, calmer, and happier is super important.
Love it. And congrats on the bravery to move. I know a lot of people
Oh,
make the move.
it was scary. It was super scary. I had a rule in my head. I called it the 60% rule, that until 60% of being bought into the idea, I'm not in yet. Once I hit above 50%, I'm in the 60% range. I'm willing to try. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Because my wife was all in. She's like, my parents are there. I want to be in the West Coast. I'm from the West Coast. We're going. And I was like, okay, I'm not there yet. And we kind of like did this thing where we took big post-it notes from Staples or whatever, Office Depot. We wrote down all our concerns, our excitements, our worries, our needs. And we kind of sat there and looked at it until I was able to get to 60%. Um, that's when we like pulled the trigger. And it was a lot of conversations and a lot of emotions, because I was born and raised on the East Coast. So to
Yeah.
leave New York is kind of weird, but I'm very happy I did. So
Nice. Yeah, it's the same thing here. We've got so many people who want to leave, but they lived here for so long. And San
San
Diego is
Diego is the
such a
most beautiful
beautiful,
place in the world.
it's the most beautiful, but now it's the most expensive, which is
Yeah.
insane. And so what happens is exactly what you talked about. You've got men who are working their butts off to try to pay for rent and mortgage and housing and food, and they're stressed and they're depressed and they're anxious and all these types of things, and they're suffering in silence essentially. And you're a relationship expert. It's affecting the relationships. We're having divorce after divorce. So much friction happens. It happens in my marriage. I like to be open and transparent here.
Yeah.
As I moved from Chula Vista, which was a much cheaper place, sold my house, moved up north, much more expensive. Rent has been raised like crazy every single year. Jewish school, everything has just increased. And so like you said, the expectation of making a lot more has become tough. And especially in
Yeah.
the Jewish community where it's like, well, what do you mean you're not successful? What's going on? And so
Yeah.
they're working so hard, stressed, as I said, not talking to anybody, that's breaking. And
Yeah.
that's a big situation that's happening.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing that I get to be in a place that people are very, like, the men are very connected. Not every man, but a lot of men are very connected. Well, we'll like talk about real things with each other,
Mm,
one on one or with each other, and just hang out. And the pressure exists everywhere. So if the pressure exists everywhere, no matter if you're in Vegas, Chicago, New York, LA, San Diego, Canada, pick your poison of whatever place is where you're living, and the stresses that come with it. A lot of people are feeling it. It's just about the willingness to trust and be open about it that makes the difference of, like, feeling connected to someone
mm,
to trust and to let go of some of that burden on your own, because a
love
lot
it.
of people feel that. So it's, like, super important to find that people, the tribe,
Yeah,
as your podcast is called,
yeah.
even though it's probably about being tribe, the Jewish tribe. But
Totally. I think that it's really important to find tribe and, like you said, just to talk with somebody, to speak, because as men, we like to hold things in. We want to just try to conquer it on our own. Um, let's talk about this. I want to talk about that in relationships. I've got three girls,
Mhm.
a beautiful wife, a crazy busy life that I enjoy. And at the same time, it takes a toll a lot of times on the relationship, right? With three girls, like just this morning, for example, all my three girls are at camp, and my wife is one of the camp directors. And so just to get them, lunch and breakfast and dressed and bathing suit and SPF and get them out the door, it's tough, and it causes a rift within the relationship, right? Because I'm saying, no, you didn't put the shorts on, or what about this, and who's making the lunch and what's happening. So every single day, it seems like we're going to battle with my wife.
Mhm.
It seems like we're just trying to, like she calls it, we're in survival mode because they're so young,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And don't say anything, but tomorrow we're gonna go to Universal Studios by ourselves, without the girls, just as like a date, like just to get out to be together. And there's a part of me that's like, oh, I feel bad not taking the girls. And then she's like, no, we need to spend time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that happening. And I see this in my friends as well. Life is getting in the middle. Yes, we love each other. Yes, we are partnering together, right? But it's causing this battle as we're trying to just do things that's causing a tear, a rift, or a separation in who we are as a couple. How do we get
Oof.
through that? How do we start?
I love that. So first of all, statistically, there was a new study that came out, I think it was last year, that on average, couples spend only 35 minutes a day with each other.
Wow.
On average. Most people probably less, some people probably more. That's not enough time to sustain a relationship, right? So the first thing is trying to find smaller moments of connection that are more than 35 minutes. How we do that, we can talk about that in a second. Something to deal with that morning rush and that morning craziness. I have a 5-year old and a 2.5-year old, and they're in camp. And there's a lot more screaming, whining, and diaper changing, and yelling, and bottles, and change of clothes. It's just this insurmountable amount of just stress. And you can feel your nervous system getting dysregulated, and you can feel everything kind of like vibrating, where you're feeling all this tension. So one thing that I try to do, and I don't do it, my wife does it better than I do, but is either the night before game planning, who's doing what, who can do it tonight,
Hmm.
what's the plan in the morning, because then we take accountability. Okay, you got the shorts and t-shirts, I'll get the lunches. Or one day you're like, hey, I got the lunches, you get the shorts and t-shirts, right? So we have that game plan. Or we make the game plan at nighttime, and in the morning we check in to see how everyone's feeling, because if I woke up late, or I'm tired, or I'm not feeling well, or I woke up early with one of the kids and now I'm kind of edgy. So it is that constant communication of checking in and remembering that we are on the same team, even though we kind of get under each other's skin, and it's usually not us, it's the kids' stress that's causing our anxieties or stressors to go up, which then the only other adult in the room that's feeling similar is the other partner. So we go at each other to kind of get either support or help, but we don't do it well by asking. We kind of usually yell at each other or talk at each other to get that, like, hey, who's doing this? Do you got that? And it's like, just, it's very aggressive. So aggression usually raises our cortisol levels. It raises everything up. So we feel like we're in fight or flight. And usually when the kids leave and we all take a breath, we're like, oh, that was really ridiculous. We're good. Right? Because in the end, it's just like, it's literally like a crazy 30 minutes and then it's all done.
Yeah.
So to me, game planning and having that check-in is really important, just to be able to be a little more prepared. It doesn't mean it's like a smooth factory, line where everything goes well. And we have to take into a very big X factor, which is the kids. We can't control them and can't stop them from being whiny or cry or waking up late or being in a bad mood, being sassy, or being aggressive, or not wanting to eat that morning, or being lazy, or being whatever it is. We can have a best game plan in the world, and then our kids like burn that down in like 3 seconds.
Like
So
gasoline on
yeah,
it.
yeah. And it's like, and then it gets worse. So that's the biggest thing. The second thing I would say is recover, text. Hey, that was really rough. I love you. Thanks so much for getting out of the house so well. Like a quick, just like, we're good. Instead of it festering throughout the day where everyone thinks, oh my gosh, my husband screamed at me, my wife screamed at me, I feel pissed, I'm angry. Express, hey, that was really rough, but I can't wait to hang out with you later. Or, can't wait to pick you guys up and have a dance party in the car. Or, hey, we're good, right? Because I'm good. That was really, maybe I'll pick up a nice coffee for you, whatever it is. And it's usually not happening every day, but it happens often enough where it feels like it's like the routine that we just yell at each other in the morning. So it's all about making sure we kind of send that reminder to ourselves. I'm good. We're good. And I will say this, that you got to let that out somehow. So don't let that fester throughout the day of like that tension of just like, that was the crappiest morning ever. I'm going to kill like 3 people today. You got to like be like, hey, I'm good. Everything's okay. My wife and I are good. That was just a stressful morning. It doesn't define the relationship, but that was just a rough morning. Making that distinction also. It's not me. It's the morning was rough.
Yeah. I think that's also, my wife always says, that's why I married her. She's brilliant. She says, we're a team and we can't forget that.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's happening, we went on a trip to a wedding to France. And there were moments that I wanted to throw my kids out the hotel window. And we were just fighting and it was stressful and all this type of stuff. But, we're a team and there are stressful moments and I love that distinction. It's like, this is a stressful moment. It's not a stress in the relationship. And we
Yeah,
can get over this
we're
moment.
not falling apart. My
Correct.
wife and I'm very big on like keywords or trigger words, so to
Okay.
speak. Where like instead of having the same fight over and over again or the same conversation over and over again, you say like a word that kind of reminds you of the thing. And I say this often, and I hope my wife doesn't listen to the podcast, so we're good. Is Our word is sassafras, which means take a deep breath. We're a team. We got this. Because it does by nature, like we took 4 flights in 10 days to go to with my family to Puerto Rico from Las Vegas. It was so difficult. My 2.5-year-old was going to kill us. He was going to kill us. He was done flying that much.
Yeah.
So saying that word to each other, looking each other in the eyes and saying sassafras is, we got this. This is really rough. And we are getting on each other's nerves and we are getting stressed and we are getting overwhelmed, but we're good. The situation is not. But sassafras. And we have another one called ginseng, which is like, have a better attitude. Like, let's have a better attitude about it. Because I'm more of like the realist, pessimistic one, and she's more the optimistic, like everything's hunky dory.
Yeah.
So it's like to each other, like, let's match each other's energy. Like, let's bring up the energy to be a little more positive, not delusional and ridiculous. So those 2 words we use very often when stress happens, where we'll look at each other and it's like a check-in, like, we are good. This is hard.
There was a time, I can't believe I did this, and she actually appreciated it. She was angry. We were just stressed out. It was going crazy. And she was about to walk out the door. And I just put my hand on her chest and I held it. I
Yeah.
just held it up to the refrigerator. And I said, babe, take a breath. Like, are
Yeah.
we okay? She's like, yes. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't want her to walk out the door that way because in the day, just like
Yeah.
for me, there's two types of men, I think. There's the guy who can walk out of his house, just gonna fight with his wife, doesn't care, goes to work and just crushes it. Like, doesn't matter. It's all about like the money, let's go,
Hmm.
right? And then there's guys like me who like if I have a massive fight with my wife and I get to work, it's just not the same. It's hard to
Yeah.
like recover and to be like, oh, everything's fine. Let me get on a sales call or let me get on a coaching call to just go through the day. So I want to make
Hmm.
sure that we start the day off on the right foot. It's not going to happen every day, but that the relationship is solid and we're doing okay. So that I know that throughout the day we're good as well.
It's interesting just to like boost what you just did. There's amazing research on the idea of physical contact to like reset someone's system, especially with
Hmm.
couples. So it doesn't have to be like a whole make out French kissing session. It could just be a quick arm rub or like a nice rub on the neck or a massage or chest because it's really connected to your heart or just like a stroke on the cheek, whatever it might be, or holding hands. So a quick intentional touching
Hmm.
could really reset your actual like inner nervous system and brain where you feel more connected because you're holding on to something and it really can help. It doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be this big romantic like dip and kiss. It could just be like, hey, we good? I got you. That was rough. And that could really change the energy of someone's marriage and relationship in that moment.
How do we do that when we're both pissed off? Right. So there's been moments where like I know that, doing that with my wife, it reconnects us. And I love that you just said that. But I'm pissed. Like I'm just like, I
Yeah.
don't want to touch you right now. Like I'm so mad at you. But
Yeah.
I know that if I just let it go, I take a breath and I do that, it will reset us. But I want to kind of hold on to that anger. And I realize that.
Yeah. So it has to be the right timing, right? So you can't force it. So if you feel that you don't want to touch someone or be touched, don't do it. It doesn't help anyone. It's like that stupid thing people say, like, don't go to bed angry. Like sometimes you need to go to bed angry
Yeah.
because by talking now, I'm going to do a lot more damage than I will in the morning. So I need to pause. I have to be angry right now. As long as I'm not angry and hurting someone with that anger.
Hmm.
So I'm allowed to be pissed. I could be pissed. I could be angry. I could be annoyed at you for whatever reason I feel. But if I'm not going like, and I'm not screaming at you for fun, if I'm not, being malicious or hurtful, but I need an hour or two to cool off, and so do you, good, do it. Because there'll be a healthier recovery and healthier repair of the relationship when you guys are actually in the right mindset to sit and be and experience with each other versus just like, fine, we're good, rah, 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 and then it doesn't really help anyone,
As
you
as
know?
you're yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you that, going to bed angry sometimes you have to. We have a thing with my wife where we say like if we're gonna talk right now, it's gonna do more damage. So let's just breathe, take a breath.
Like, I
No,
love you, I care about you, but we gotta repair. We'll talk about it later. Like, I can't do it right now.
yeah, like I exactly like I can't be present. I can't be mindful of how I'm gonna speak. I'm just gonna just barf badness at the moment, and it's just not okay.
Yeah,
So
for sure. That's so important.
what so how do we, for example, so the first thing I'm hearing is one is spend more time together, right? Like
Yeah.
I agree with you. We go to work early, we might go to the gym, come home, and then what happens is we get home, for me with the three girls, I get home and it's like dinner, bathing, tomorrow's prep, and then the girls are going crazy. They don't go to sleep till late. Then one wants to sleep in our bed, and the other one comes poppy out of don't feel good, and we don't get any time together, right?
Yeah.
And there was a story about a rabbi, I forgot who told me this, that he was very, very important. And all he would do was take 15 minutes every single day with his wife to have like a
Yeah.
coffee or a tea and just sit together because he would see people all day long. And it was
Yeah.
brilliant, right? And I think that we don't feel like that's necessary. So first, spend more time together, right?
Yeah.
Two, we talked about touch, having more touch in some way
Yeah.
to reconnect. What do you think is like a third thing that the men can do listening to this to be able to improve the connection and not be so stressed out in the relationship?
This is going to be the hardest one probably, is communicate, express. So classically, men are going to be bottlers more than expressors. So it's like a shaken Coke bottle and you throw some Mentos in. That's usually what happens more to men, that they express when it finally is just too much. And so to me, it's expressing, but it doesn't have to be in the way that is too difficult. You don't have to be a blubbering, crying person to express. It could be expressing in a journal. It could be expressing in a funny meme or a stupid GIF or GIF, however you want to pronounce it. It could be listening to a certain music and sending it to your partner. That's how you feel that day. It could be expressing yourself to a friend. It could be any way you want. You need to find an outlet of expression, because sitting in you is pain and hurt, and everyone has it. And it's just so interesting. I work with a lot of couples, and I hear so often that women express themselves in smaller doses, in bigger doses, in small ways. So they'll talk about small things. Oh, this little thing bothered me, and that little thing bothered me, and this little thing bothered me. And it's just they're getting it out. It's just this stuff that doesn't get to the bottom. It's always up here. Everything's just being released. Men wait till there's so much that there's so much to come out that sometimes it's so much harder. So if we do it in smaller doses, it can be a lot easier to get to the bottom and get empty with that expression and that pain.
So do you think that we don't do it because the first thing that came to mind, and my wife doesn't listen to this either, but the first thing that comes to mind is as women release little by little, to men sometimes it sounds like nagging, like it's
Yeah,
complaining, right?
that's just because how it's being expressed.
Right. And then we don't want to do that. Like we don't want
Yeah.
to just nag all the time or express in a way that seems like that. And we've been also taught like, be a man, stop complaining, just get it done. And we haven't been taught to, I mean, I went to therapy for seriously 10 years to be able to
Hmm.
express myself and just communicate to stop being the
Good for
nice
you.
guy, right?
Yeah.
And I go every week. It's my mental tune-up. And I mean, from like therapy, EMDR, tons of work on myself. And
Awesome.
and but still, I had to do like very deep work with Dr. Robert Glover. I don't know if you've heard of him. He wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy. Heard him
Yeah.
speak, and I was like, brother, you wrote my biography, and I hired him to coach me, and we went through like so much depth of work until I was able to just speak and just say no. Like, that's not okay with me. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to say, what I'm getting to is really easy to say communicate, right? And if you're talking to men who haven't done the work, haven't gone to therapy, or haven't even like seen it this way, communication is a foreign language to them. So how do we start
Yeah.
piece by piece? Cool, thumbs up. How do we start piece by piece, like small steps for men who are listening to this, who haven't done the work or haven't
Mhm.
gone to therapy and worked on themselves, to be able to not bottle it up so much more?
Yeah, so we're not talking about needing to express. Again, the idea of nagging is usually because we feel that when women express, they're kind of talking at us about the things they want to get done.
Mm.
We're not talking about that. Like, hey, did you do the laundry? Did you do the dishes yet? What about the garbage? You take care of the bills? Like, we're not talking about that kind of expression. That's like a laundry list of things, a to-do list. That's not helpful. But the idea of being able to express in a way that is a need, a feeling. Hey, what do you want for dinner? Just say what you want for dinner. Don't pull the garbage of, oh, whatever you want, honey.
Yeah.
Like, that's very nice. And you're trying to be nice. And like Mr. Nice Guy, and actually, I'm thinking about having him on the podcast, on my podcast, because
Amazing.
he's an amazing dude. I love that idea of the book, and I feel that way also as a people pleaser and Mr. Nice Guy. But that idea of that, oh, just placate, just be passive, let them do what they want. There's a line in a recent book by Terry Real in the book called Us that says, "Happy spouse, happy house."
Mm.
Okay, it's not the happy wife, happy life, because both partners matter. Period. Now, the focus is sometimes more on the woman than the men. That's fine. That's good. It depends on the scenario and the marriage. We're not making rules here. The only rule I will say is that you matter too. So
Mm.
express yourself means saying your needs. How do you feel? I'm talking about needs in the bedroom. I'm talking about needs in the house. What things you want in the fridge. You can express as stupid as like, oh, I had a great poop today. Whatever it is, it could be as ridiculous as that, or I really would love to go work out today. Right? Having your needs met doesn't need for you to be nagging. Having your wants heard doesn't mean you have to nag. We're not saying you have to be a little bird that just chirps and goes all the time. No,
Yeah.
it just means start small. Start. By not doing it, your needs never get met. By not talking, nothing ever gets heard. So I say for a lot of people in relationship work and couples work is the biggest killer of relationship is when communication just stops. If you're yelling, screaming, talking, conflict, you're talking, you're expressing, maybe not the best way, but expression is happening. So it's about tuning your expression correctly to be able to feel heard and feel that your needs matter, and they do. And the only way to set that precedent in your relationship is by doing it. If you never do it, it feels like your needs are never important because, oh, Bob is fine. He never talks up. He's good. He's great. Look at him. He's doing just fine. When in reality, inside, you're like, really? I'm not doing fine. I have X, Y, and Z that haven't been met in 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start setting the precedent to express it better. And I will say I do this thing with a lot of couples, and it doesn't work for everyone. It has to be the right thing and the right person. I do a couples journal. Sometimes it's very hard to say things. So I have a journal that you write what you feel and leave it on the person's nightstand
Love that.
so that they can read it on their own time. You can talk about it later. But let's say right now something feels heated and you are afraid to express it. You feel so much anger that you're going to scream, yell, and hurt someone's feelings. You don't have the right words to say it verbally, but maybe in your head you can get it down on a piece of paper. So the couple's journal is a journal just to express with no judgment and trying to heal and be heard. So you just write things in the journal, leave it on the nightstand. And you can just say to someone, instead of saying, I got to talk to you, say, hey, nightstand.
Yeah. Check out the
There's a
journal.
journal on the nightstand.
It's
So expression could come in different ways. It doesn't have to be a big conversation. It doesn't mean I'm not saying for anyone here who's like, I don't want to cry. I'm not saying you have to cry. And I'm not saying you have to yell either, but start in small ways because if you don't do it, nothing gets heard, nothing gets met. And that hurts you in the long run.
there was a moment in our relationship where it was a joke. I would want to express myself, right? I'm doing this therapy and I want to express myself. And my wife would get defensive. It was about 15, 20 minutes of defensiveness. And I already knew this. So I'm like, how do I break this? Like every time I go talk to her, she's getting defensive and I don't want to do it. It's shutting me down. So one day I went up to her and I said, babe, I love you. Every time when we got married, you said, be honest with me, be open with me, talk to me, let me know what's going on. I said, but when I do, there's like these two, ninja swords that come out and like you slice my throat like a movie, right? So I said,
Yeah.
do I have to bring my armor do I have to bring like, do I bring my armor today? And so now it's a joke. We're like, hey, babe, I'd like to talk to you. Do I put my armor on or are the samurai
Yeah.
swords coming out or not? And we crack a joke, we make fun. And she'll say like, oh, maybe just one's going to come out today. No, no,
Yeah.
or like, not right now. The samurai swords are like ready to rock. And so it's kind of like a joke that we have, like, now's not the time to talk or, hey, I'm open to listen. Because what happens is, I think guys want to talk. They want to express themselves. And sometimes their spouse gets pissed off, angry, defensive. What do you mean? How can you say this? Look at you. Look what you're doing.
Hmm.
And then it's like, well, F this. Like, I don't even want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah. I
And
love that you
that's,
brought that up because a key part of expressing is also like setting the stage for the expression to happen. So I love that you guys have that like cutesy like armor and sword situation, but that's what it feels like a lot of times. So sometimes it's literally going to your partner and saying, hey, I really want to talk to you right now. Are you available? I know it sounds super sterile and it's not sexy and it's not fun, but sometimes like, hey, I really have something to tell you. Are you ready to listen? Because I need to talk to you and I need you to hear me with love, or I need to hear you. I need you to hear me with compassion and kindness.
mm, Damn it, that's amazing. I need you to hear me with love, compassion, and kindness. It's like if you can't listen that way, let's have this conversation at a different point.
Then we'll have it later. If you're not, because let's say, for example, I'll give you the example you said about like the morning, right? The
Yeah.
craziness of the morning with the kids. Or you just walked in from work, and someone has been thinking about talking to you the whole day or for a couple hours, and they're already ready to talk. They have the whole situation in their head, and they come at you. I just walked in the door. I am not ready to listen to you. I want to say hi to my kids. I want to say hi to you. We got to get dinner ready. Whatever the logistics and the things that need to get done, now is not a good time, but it could be a good time. But no one knows yet. It's like Schrodinger's cat. It's not sure if it's dead or alive. It's just there. But no one checks in with that. No one asks.
Mm.
So either the person doesn't talk when it could be a possible good time, or the person talks and the entire possibility of a good conversation gets burned to the ground because it's like, I just walked in the door. Shut up. I don't want to look at you right now. I want to go just sit. I need to go get a drink of water. I have to pee. Whatever things need to come into the play. But if I just went, hey, babe, I want to talk in 5 minutes. Is that okay? Could change the narrative of someone, or no, can we talk in 15? Can we talk when the kids go down? Because then I actually could pay attention to you. My head is all over the place. Or I'm really having a really big headache. I'm not in the mood to talk
Yeah.
right now, but I want to be able to listen to you. Those ways say, oh, I want to talk to her again because she said she wants to talk to me and didn't just yell and scream at me and shut me down.
It's so funny because sometimes my wife, I'll want to say something to my wife and she'll like look at me and she'll like give me these eyes of like look around and like two
Yeah,
meltdowns
like
are
now.
happening, right? Like the two meltdowns are happening, something's burning in the kitchen, like, and she's like, now, like right now, and I'm like, shit, sorry, I didn't like.
Yeah. I got to back up. Sorry. Yeah. But sometimes it's a lack of awareness because we want to talk to them so much and we're ready, but it doesn't mean that the environment is
Yeah,
conducive to that conversation. So it is that awareness or even asking to understand the scenario of where someone's at. We can't assume someone's ready to match where we're at, which happens a lot in relationships where we want someone to meet us where we're at and they're not there yet and we get upset. Just because I want to talk doesn't mean someone's ready. Just
yeah,
because I have things to say doesn't mean someone wants to listen. So it's just about like, hey, are you ready? You are? Great. Are you bringing a good attitude? Great. Let's go for it. If are you ready and you're going to bring a bad attitude, then it's not a good environment.
yeah.
So maybe we
Well,
wait.
what's funny is we do that at work. You know what I mean? Like if we're about to have a meeting, hey, is this still a good time? It's still a good time
Yeah.
to chat. Like we get on the phone
Yeah.
or we ask kind of permission. Hey, is it okay if we have a meeting at, 2 o'clock to talk about the payroll or whatever? Sure, that works for me, or that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Or
But
no, 3 o'clock. And
yeah,
you're like, okay.
yeah. But at home,
But
it's
I
like,
think I
what do
think
you?
there's like I think because it's more sterile. I think work, it's supposed to be like professionalism and very sterile. Not that you can't have personality at work. I hope you do. But it kind of has this vibe of professionalism that we're taking other people's like lives into consideration, hopefully.
Yeah,
And in a relationship, we're in each other's lives. So it's very hard to take into account where I see you every day and you see me every day. And I know what time you went to the bathroom and I know how long you've been in there. And I know you didn't do the dishes. And I also know that you put the kids to bed, but I also know you also like we're so involved. There's no professionalism.
yeah,
So what I'm saying, and some of the suggestions that I give with a lot of my couples, yes, is very sterile. But sometimes we have to have that attitude. We can have our personality in it. We can make a joke like armor and swords, and that's our cutesy joke. But what behind it is a seriousness of professionalism of, are you available to talk to me?
yeah.
Yeah, you said, do you have your armor up right now? But that's jokey, but it still has the same professionalism of what you're trying to get across versus
Yeah.
no boundaries, no, just straight to the point and no respect for each other's space because we're always in each other's space. So, you
How do
have to
you
have that professionalism sometimes.
communicate if I mean, I have a conversations with, guys all the time, and there's a lot of times that they
Yeah.
say, I keep getting shut down. She keeps shutting me down, right? So how do you get through like if they have a spouse who's keeps shutting down for whatever reason? Because if I'm going to therapy, but my wife is not, we're not on the same page. If there's work being done and the
Yeah.
other's not, there's a gap in growth, right?
Yeah.
Does the guy just keep trying? Like I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep moving forward, or what's the method to keep trying because he wants to communicate, but it's not being heard on the other side?
Two things. One, try smarter. So if you're going to do the same thing every time, you're going to get the same response. So if you go to your partner, and I don't know each and every single person who who has a scenario, it is about going to the person and saying, hey, I'm really trying to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. And every time I bring it up, I keep feeling like you are just either running away or attacking me for bringing it up.
Mm.
How can I say it that you can hear me? Because I need to express it. I need to say this. And yes, again, this is like a very quote, like a very like set workshop type thing of saying it. But in reality, sometimes we just have to be very real. I'm trying to bring something up and you keep running away. How come you're running away? What is scaring you about this conversation? Because sometimes you have to have a pre-conversation about what's happening to even have the conversation. So that's one. Number two, if and it's so funny because for the most part, I usually hear the opposite, that women are in therapy and the men is not. So whatever the yes is in therapy and no is not in therapy structure, sometimes maybe bring them into your individual therapy.
Mm.
I do it all the time. I have individuals where I work with a man and they want their wife to be in, or wife and want the man to be in, and we have a one-off session about a topic, about a thing, just to give a better structure to setting the tone for the conversation afterwards, after the therapy session. That's number two. Number three is, if you feel, and this is just a sassy thing to say, that it's not working that way, stop trying. If you've tried, you've expressed yourself and said, hey, every time I do this, you keep running away. And again, don't do it accusatory. Don't attack them for it. Come with curiosity as to why they are doing that. Because if you go, hey, you idiot, every time I do it, you keep running, that's not going to be successful. But if you go, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Because I want to talk to you, but you keep shutting me down or running away. What's going on? What can we do to make this a better conversation? That feels more loving and more kind and more caring about the person versus me yelling at them that they suck for not showing up for me.
Yeah.
And if you do that and they can't do it after that, then you need to stop trying, because you can't fight and convince someone to show up for you when they're not.
Yeah.
It's a waste of your energy. You got to try in other ways, and if it still doesn't work, stop wasting your energy on that.
Yeah.
Go a different route. Find a different way of getting through them.
Keith Yackey, who was on the podcast, said something that, really opened my mind. He said, women don't want to have sex with little boys, meaning like you've got to step up.
Yeah.
And like you said, you've got to try and you've got to do it
Most women get
smarter.
attracted to confidence.
Exactly. Like you've got to try smarter. You've got to try a different way and not just sit like this little boy who is afraid to speak or afraid
Yeah.
to communicate or afraid to get something done. That's where a lot of the attraction is broken as well. And it like opened my mind. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
well said.
And confidence doesn't mean anger and yelling and
Correct.
aggressive.
Yeah.
It means showing up and stepping up in a way that you can be heard and say, either I got this, I'm going to take care of this. Like very dominant energy. That is what women get attracted to, because it shows like a sense of pride and power that is very beautiful, and not power that's trying to hurt, but power that's trying to help and create
Yeah.
is very, very awesome.
Yeah. It's like protective. I feel like, when you read Dr. Robert Glover, he talks about feminine and masculine energy a lot, and how like if it gets reversed, then there's the magnets don't touch each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like the polarization. And sometimes what happens is when the man acts like a little boy, the woman takes the man's role and starts over communicating and doing that. And that's where there's a lot of rift in
Yeah.
the relationship.
Better balance.
Yeah. Love it. You talked balance. I love it. Balance and
Yeah.
harm. Somebody talked about on the podcast, they said, I don't want balance, I want harmony.
Yeah.
Right? Because balance is tough. They said, I want harmony. So it sounds nice, it sounds beautiful. And we can all, I think it's about enjoying life together as a couple and not
Yeah.
stressing and surviving through it. It's about really loving to be together, because you got together in the first place for a reason.
Yeah. The
And
survival piece is something that I think hurts a lot of couples, especially as they have more kids or kids that are older. If you feel like you're in a survival state, you're never in the right mindset to connect,
yeah,
because you're thinking what the next thing that has to be taken care of. What's the next? And you're not here now with like smaller moments of cute connection or smaller moments of love or smaller moments of opportunity,
Mm.
your brain is so somewhere else. You're like, oh my gosh, I have to pay the bills. Oh my gosh, what about this? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And you're just in this flight or fight or fright mode. And you're not actually just present and happy. It doesn't mean the goal is happiness, because
Yeah.
there's all these emotions, but the goal is connection and like sustainability. And being in this up and down and this survival, this heightened state of stress, that hurts relationships so much.
It's massive. This has been incredible. I think that the guys who are listening to this, the one thing that stood out to me was ask permission to be heard with love and openness, right? Like, hey, I need you to listen to me with love and just like empathy and be present. That was massive for me. Where can people? I know you got the podcast, the Dude
Yeah.
Therapist podcast. If you want to hear more of Ellie and his wisdom, go listen to that on Spotify and anywhere you can listen to
Anywhere.
podcasts. Where's anywhere else that people can listen to you, watch you, and get more resources from you?
Yeah. So I have a website. It's my name, Eli Weinstein, LCSW.com. I have Instagram, Eli Weinstein _ LCSW. Just my name, or the Dude Therapist podcast is great. And some exciting things are coming down the pipeline of potential things, of opportunities, maybe workshops or books, who knows. A book is being worked on as we speak. I don't know when this is airing, but I might as well just start talking about it, on relationships and relationships while you're parenting. That's the
Mm.
goal of the book. That's the entirety of the book, is how to succeed in both. So hopefully that goes well and I do a good job. And if not, maybe the editors will do a better job helping. But yeah, please reach out, message me, email me. Any question is a good question. If I can help, I would love to. And if I can't, I'll try to help in other ways and try to find other things to help you. But don't be shy, because we got to start talking. And it could just be a quick question, a long question, but anything is something. And that's great.
Awesome, Ellie. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an honor. And as we say to all the guests, we give you a blessing. May you have chazak ve'ematz, strength and courage to continue doing what you're doing. I appreciate you, brother. And we'll talk soon. For those of you listening, stay tuned for the next episode of the Tribesman Podcast.